In 2005, an international best-selling book by Thomas Friedman, The World is Flat, analyzes the effects of globalization, including the outsourcing trend which has already existed for a long period of time.
The history of the industry, it started with the companies like EDS, Accenture, CSC, and IBM Global Services providing onshore services to American companies and also providing services to European countries. Then over time you had an evolution with new emerging Indian providers, and some of the providers there would be Infosys, Cognizant Technologies, TCS, and others.
I have to say that the 1990s, it was really a domestic industry in the United States. You had the EDSs, you had companies like IBM, big companies that were doing outsourcing, predominantly data center outsourcing for large corporations. By the mid or late 1990s, application outsourcing as well became an important emerging trend. But again, taking place predominantly on a domestic basis, frequently at client sites or at the vendor site. It was in the late 1990s, 2000, 2001, the companies began to realize not only is there a labor shortage in the United States, so labor costs were increasing, and it was hard to find the best talent. But as a result of that, companies started to turn to nearshore locations, such as Canada, started to go to India in particular, to find access to top talent at a very affordable price. In fact, prices were less than half of what you could achieve here domestically in the United States.
And lastly, you've seen emerging providers and emerging outsourcing companies coming from Eastern Europe, countries like Romania, Poland, the Czech Republic, Russia, and you've also seen emerging companies coming into the outsourcing business from China, like my company, iSoftStone, and other companies that are spread out throughout China, both northern, eastern, and southern China.
So when offshore outsourcing in the early 2000s began to take hold, that whole industry just took off. Rapid, growing 30, 40% per year, to where you'd have to say offshore outsourcing is really a mature industry right now, still growing. And with that, there's starting to be new issues and new challenges.
How do you find the customer?
The challenge is how do you manage communications and workflow seamlessly between the client, between our on-site presence and our offshore presence.
Everybody at that time, I think at that time, the most difficult thing is about the image of China.
We're sharing with our teams in China the differences between an American company and how they think, and maybe a Chinese company and how they think about problems.
Most Americans have those kind of, I cannot say stereotype, but at least some deception. The Chinese can make shoes, can make ball pens, but they are not doing the software.
Exactly, how do we transfer work to China? And what the expectations are in terms of the deliverables there. How is that work transferred back?
So that's, I think it's more difficult to convince the customer. The Chinese is smart enough, and they're organized, the management is okay to finish the product, to finish the project.
Understanding the culture of American companies and how they like to think, and getting our Chinese team to think like their customer, their American customer, when they're serving an American company, is something that we're spending a lot of time on.
There's additional challenges when you're working offshore, but if you have a tight process, you can do it and it can work very successfully.
Generally, it's true. The Chinese people are learning fast. They have enough technical background.
I think the Chinese exhibit that. They want to learn about America, they want to learn about our culture, they want to learn about Europe.
I think there are something like 1,300 universities across China. We choose to partner with a couple of the leading universities there, like Tsinghua University and Beida University.
They want to learn business, they want to learn more about financial services, they want to learn more about insurance.
But the talent that we're sourcing and providing to U.S. companies and Chinese companies typically revolves around newer, more modern development technologies. The .NETs, Microsoft .NET, Java are two key technologies that we're working with quite extensively.
I think given the way Chinese students are educated and how hard they work in school, I think that still applies when they graduate from school and come into the workforce.
Technology has become a bigger and bigger part of budgets for corporations. And there's a continuous need to have new talent, new technologies, and to train people.
If you look at China or if you look at India or some of the bigger countries, they have great educational systems. They have millions of students graduating from collegiate programs every year.
It's our expectation that outsourcing will continue to grow strongly in the years ahead.
Well, I think when you look at China, one of the big advantages today would be the talent level. When you look at technologists, if you look in the .NET area, which is a Microsoft technology, or if you look in the Java area, there are several thousand to hundreds of thousands of people in the country that have experiences with those technologies. So there's a good human base to work with.